Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Sue and I'm a scrap quilter living in Southeast Pennsylvania, and this is From Small Things. I usually catch up with everybody here every week and show you my progress on everything, but for the last 2.5 weeks I've been cat sitting for some friends of mine who are on a long vacation. And so they have two cats. They have Stella and Massimo. They are brother and sister, and they're still fairly young. I'd say about 2, maybe 3 years old. They have a lot of energy yet, and they run around the house like crazy, and they play with each other, and they tumble over each other. So every day I've been spending about 3.5 or 4 hours with them in their home, and I haven't gotten a lot done in the sewing department because little Stella, she's the little female, and she's very little. They're both very small, thin cats, but Stella is especially petite, and she loves to curl up either on my lap while I'm working or in my quilting frame, because when I go to somebody else's house like that and cat sit for them, I play with the cats a lot until they've had enough and they're tired. And then I always bring sewing with me so that I can sit with them and I have something to work on. And it did not go well for me in the sewing department. They were on my work all the time. And then because I was gone for so many hours during the day, which isn't really a long time. I mean, when I was working, I was gone much longer than just 3.5 or 4 hours. But I have my own cat now, Ollie, and so his schedule has been off too because I'm gone from the house every day. And so in the morning, I spend time with Ollie and I play with him. And then when I come home from house sitting, then Ollie realizes I've been gone for a few hours and he now just wants to sit on my lap or sit on my work. And that's not like him at all. He's not a lap cat, but I think he's lonely too. So basically, I've been surrounded by lonely cats and I'm doing my best to try and give them what they need. But as of the day we're filming this now, this was my last day of house sitting for Stella and Massimo. So tomorrow should be a good day for Ollie. I'll be home all day. But like I said, I haven't really gotten a lot done. And I'll show you. I'll show you what I did, and it's actually kind of pitiful. But I'm up front here. I'll tell you, what's going on. And this is going to be a quick show and tell today for my progress. So when I was house sitting, I had to come up with a plan B because the quilt that I was working on always seemed to have a cat on it. And so I wanted something to keep my hands busy while I'm sitting at their house. They don't have a TV at their house, and that's fine with me because I don't have a TV in my house either. So I would just listen to music. But when you're just sitting there, listening to music just isn't enough for me as far as entertainment. I have to keep my hands busy. So I decided to take some yarn with me and make a scarf. I don't need another scarf, but it kept my hands busy. If you watched one of my more recent videos, I was just gifted with a large bag of yarn from CJ's mother, and CJ is my son-in-law. He's the one who made his quilt for his very first quilt this summer. So his mother gave me a lot of yarn. So I made a throw size Afghan out of that yarn. I still have some yarn left in that bag. So I took a couple of skeins out of that bag with me, again, just to keep my hands busy. So it's nothing special, it's nothing fancy, and actually I just finished it, so I didn't even cut my yarn or weave in my ends yet, because I just came from cat sitting. So I just got back home. So this is it. Like I said, it's nothing fancy. It's basic. It's very simple, but I will use it. My house is usually on the cooler side all winter long, and when I'm working around the house all winter long, I have a scarf on to keep the back of my neck warm. And so that was it. I used, I don't know what size needle it is. Let's see. Can you read that, Pam? Yeah, no? It's not normal. There, it's not a letter, and it doesn't have like a centimeter on it. I have a lot of crochet hooks, so I just went in the bag that has all my crochet hooks in, and I just took a strand of the yarn and I just did, you know, a basic couple of chain stitches to see which size would fit this yarn. So it's a boil, and it's a, you know, it's a metal hook. So I'm sorry, I can't really tell you what size it is. But then I have this crochet book. It's Beginner's Guide 30 Easy to Crochet Pattern Stitches by Leisure Arts. And I didn't spend a lot of time looking through. I literally just chose the very first one. And so that's what this pattern is. It's called Lattice, and it's very simple, very easy. Basically, if you crochet, it is a half double crochet and then a chain, and that's it. That's the whole pattern, a half a double crochet and a chain, and you just repeat. Now on my scarf here, I still had a cat on my lap, and it was as long as I wanted it to be, so I still needed to do something. So I actually did a little bit of an edging on both sides of it, and that I just made up. I first just did a slip stitch going all the way down, and then when I came back I just did a it wasn't a double, it might have been a half a double crochet, maybe it was just a single crochet just in each one of those chains that I made then. And so that's it. And then this is how much was left over from the skein. So that's really good. So it worked out. That's what I did to keep my hands busy at house sitting. And let's get into what I've been working on as far as hand quilting. So as far as hand quilting, I'm working on this one. This is my green checkerboard quilt, and I really should be done by now, but I'm almost done actually with the quilting part. But the reason I'm not done is because I decided that it needed a little something extra on here. The center of it is checkerboard, and then this part here is just white scraps that I like string piecing scraps, and then another checkerboard, and then the outside border is just more of this type of block. And I was originally going to donate this one to charity. This was made just out of squares, individual squares that I have in my drawer. When I organize my scraps, I have a drawer in my sewing table that just holds 2.5-inch squares. So whenever I'm working on anything else, If I can get a long strip out of it, that goes into one box, but if I only can get a few squares out of it, then it goes into the drawer with the squares. So that's how this quilt came to be. My green piles in my drawer were getting very, very tall. So I made this quilt and I was going to donate it to charity, and then I thought it over and decided to keep it. I have a basting thread in here yet. And as soon as I decided that I was going to keep it, I knew that this area in here, this white area in here, needed something, because when I looked at the quilt overall, this did not have any definition to it. It looked a little muddy, I guess. It just blended in with the green a little too much, and it didn't have the definition that I wanted it to have. And so I decided to put some embroidery around the outside edge of this part here. And so this is a feather stitch with embroidery here all the way around. I'm going to tease you a little bit. I won't show you the whole thing right away, but you get the idea here. So I also have a lot of, some of it's leftover, some of it's donated, some of it's thrift store, bits of embroidery floss. And I tried to pick out the greens that looked very similar. Not all of these greens are exactly the same. They're very close, but if you really, really look, they're not exactly the same. And I'm okay with that because I like using what I have. I didn't have to go purchase anything. And overall, it looks consistent. And just don't get too close. So the inner borders here, I did the feather stitch. And then the outer border here also has these same string blocks on the outer border here. And so the outer border, I wanted something a little bit different. So I did a buttonhole stitch out here. And it's just a different variation of a buttonhole stitch. There's so much you can do with a buttonhole stitch or even the feather stitch. And I'll give you a little short demo on how I made this buttonhole stitch and how I did this feather stitch. It's very easy, and they're actually very, very similar in the process of how you make the stitch. These are both very beginner stitches. My favorite stitch of all is the feather stitch. I think that always looks nice. I'm always really pleased with it. Okay, I'll do my demonstration on this little block that I have here. I had at one point, maybe still in the future at some point, I have a lot of pockets from men's shirts. When I work with men's shirts, I save all the pockets, I set them aside. And I thought, I don't know, one day I had the thought of just making some improv blocks out of them by just putting really just random pieces. I wanted to keep it mostly white around the pockets, but with just little pops of color. So I only have about 3 or 4 of these. So this project is nowhere near at the front of my list. So I'll do a little demo on this. So I have, I'll use brown here so that it shows up well on camera. I use 2 strands of thread. And when I work on a quilt that is a sandwiched quilt that has the batting and the backing on it, I still only work on the top layer. I don't go through all 3 layers. And it's actually pretty easy to do. I don't ever go through all the layers. And also with the quilt, I don't use a standard embroidery hoop. with a quilt like that, there's enough weight on it that I can work on that without a hoop. And the outer border of that, I can usually just reach under the outside edge and hold my work tight as I work on it. So I don't have a hoop at that point. Sometimes I do use a hoop, especially for smaller things, but for that instance alone, I don't. Okay, so to do the feather stitch, I'm going to come up, just bring my threads up, and then I usually try and work with my thread like in front of me, and then I just will go next to it over to the right a little bit and just take a bite out of my fabric like that. This is basically your stitch. You're always just taking a little bite moving forward. That's it. The trick to it is to make sure this thread catches underneath it like that. You don't want it over here. You don't want your thread to come up clean. I mean, your needle to come up clean like that. You want that thread to get wrapped around it like that. So now that's your first stitch. And now you have to decide which way do you want to go, to the right or to the left. For this instance, I'm going to go over to the right along here. And so my thread is coming up here, so I'm going to go directly across from it, even with where it comes up. And then I'm just going to take another little bite out of it. And again, it's important to keep this thread behind that needle. So they look like little horseshoes in a way. So now that I'm almost over here at the edge, now I can go back over here again. So this is where my thread comes up. So I'm just going to go right over here. And you can vary this in so many different ways too, like the buttonhole. Now again, this is where my thread comes out. So I'm going to put it behind the needle and then pull it. And then again, I'm just going to go to the left of it, take a little bite out of it, make sure my thread is behind the needle, and just keep going like that. And now if you want to, you know what, give me just a second, let me get a marking pen and I'll show you how you can mark this if you feel more comfortable marking. I use the water erasable pens by Leonis. They're blue and they always wash out for me. I always have success. It says they're made in Japan and I buy those on Amazon. Now if you want to mark something on here, if you feel more comfortable having a line to follow, you can. Let's just draw like a big line like that. And I'll show you how I treat something like that. Now I'm going to come up over here to the left again, and I'm always going to make sure now that I come up on that line, and then I'll wrap my thread and pull it through. And now I can go to the right again. I will come up on that line and make sure my thread gets looped. And so this way too, I mean, you can just go back and forth every other one, or you can do 2 at a time or 3 at a time. So for this instance, I'll just do every other one. I'll go to the right now, and I'll come up right on that line. And now I'll go to the left, take a little bite out of it, wrap my thread around, and come up right on that line. So you can see now wherever I come up, that's where this design is going to follow. So I'll take a few more stitches here. And there you go. Now you can see you're following that curved line that you marked. Okay, and I'll show you how I did my buttonhole stitch too. So this will be easy. I'm right up against the seam, and on the quilt I'm working on, I'm also working right up against a seam. So that gives me a guideline there. So I bring my thread up, and it's the same premise, only your stitches are going to vary. So my first stitch that I did there is just a short little stitch. Again, I make sure that thread is right behind it. And for this one, I'm going to follow this line here. So my next one over is going to be a little bit taller than this one. So I'm going to go a little bit higher than that. It's the same stitch though. You're just going forward with your needle and you're bringing it right up on this seam line. And you're making sure that that thread goes right behind. So you can see how they are similar. So my second one is a little bit higher. Then my third one is a little bit higher than that. So it's a little bit longer stitch. And you want to make sure you don't pull this too tight, because you can see what happens here. Your thread doesn't lay right. If that happens to you, all you have to do is take your needle and loosen it up a little bit and then pull it a little bit more gently and it'll lay flat again. So now that's my third one, and that will be the highest one. Now my next one is going to be about the same distance as this one, the height. And then my last one will be a short one again. And so that's it. And then with mine, on my quilt, I left a little bit of a distance between each one of these. So I would go over here, take another short one to start the next pattern here. So I'll do the short, then I'll do the medium, then I'll do the tall. And then the medium, and then the short. So it goes pretty quickly. And the only thing that I would suggest you keep in mind when you do this is it goes through, you use a lot of floss. You'd be surprised how quickly you need to change needles and go through like a lot of floss. And I'm happy with that on the quilt I'm working with, really, because I have a big tub full of floss, and so I'm going to be able to use a lot of that. The other thing, now this is a variation on a buttonhole stitch. A normal buttonhole stitch, you would want to try and make all of your stitches the same size, and you wouldn't want to put like a big space in between. Basically the whole thing, I'll do a few of them for you to show you just a normal buttonhole stitch. So basically the whole thing is going to be just short little stitches like this. And you get to decide how tall you want them and how far apart you want them. And that does make a difference with how your end product will look. So this is just a standard buttonhole where they're all basically the same size. And again, if you don't feel comfortable just eyeballing it, you can use your pen and you could mark a line here. And then every time you take a stitch, you would take a stitch, you would go down on that line. My line actually I drew is a little bit taller than that, but that could be like a guide for you. And then just come up, and that way your stitches would be more consistent. I tend to always just eyeball it, but you can do curves with this too. You can do little, I call them wagon wheels. They look like wagon wheels. You can do a whole circle or just a half a circle with those. There's all sorts of things you can do. And so if you vary the size, the width, I've done it already where they're all sort of angled along, that they're not actually straight, and that's an interesting look too. So again, this is very, very, very easy. It's beginner friendly. So give it a try. I've put embroidery on quite a few of the quilts I've made already because it's just something I enjoy doing. But it takes a little bit longer. Some of the quilts that I've put embroidery on, I've actually done that part when, like, after the whole quilt is finished and washed, binding, you know, is on and everything, I'll go back and I'll put some embroidery on because I like doing handwork. So, and I really like doing some of these embroidery stitches a lot. And I think it does add a little something extra, especially with the green quilt that I'm working on, because that is a basic pattern. It's a checkerboard. There's nothing fancy about that quilt, but that little bit of embroidery on there is going to take it to the next level and really set it off. And I'm really happy with the way that it looks. So this is the quilt that was on the door behind me. This is a poppy quilt that Pam bought out at the Ephrata fabric sale this year. This quilt was really, a lot of people were picking this up and looking at it, considering buying it, and then they all put it back down again because it had two giant holes in it, like really, you know, literal just holes in it. And so Pam decided to take a chance on it and bring it home. And so if you see the red pins on here, this is where the holes were, where these red pins are. So she looked through her stash to try to find something as close as possible to match. And when you take on a job like this, you're never going to be able to match the original 100%. That's going to be extremely rare to do. But I think she did a really great job. And especially once this is on a bed or draped over something, you're really not going to be able to tell. I think a sharp-eyed quilter will be able to tell, you know, where the repairs are. But I think for the most part, most people won't be able to tell. So this quilt has polyester batting in it. So what she did is, first of all, she used some cotton batting and sort of whip stitched it around these edges to the polyester batting that was in. And then she took her muslin on the top and she appliqued this round shape where the hole was, and the same for the back. So the back is appliqued on also. There were only 2 holes, and as far as a hole in the quilt goes, I'd say they were large holes. Most holes in quilts are, you know, fairly small, but as far as doing some applique goes, this wasn't a big job. So I think it looks really great. And then she also continued the quilting design throughout. This part here, actually, it's hard to see. You know, the lighting has to hit it just right. But there is a stem that comes up here, and then this is a poppy flower here. And then there is some diagonal quilting, and there is also some feather stitching that comes up. So she kept the original pattern of the quilting, but it looks a little bit different because her quilting stitches are not the same as the original makers, and because this part now also has cotton batting instead of polyester. So like I said, there were 2 spots here. That was one, and then this is the other one over here where this green leaf is, and a little bit of this stem needed to be repaired also. So she found a green that she liked and thought would, it doesn't really blend in, but it has the right feel to it for this quilt. So this is a really gorgeous quilt, and I'm sure if this were on the table at Effort and Now, somebody would snatch this right up. How much did you pay for this? Do you remember? $25 for this applique quilt, and it's really beautiful. And so you take the pins out now, and you can see it looks great. It looks really good. So as far as work in my sewing room, since I've been house sitting, it's been very, very little. I didn't work on my vintage blocks at all. Nothing. Since our last video, everything is still in the box. I didn't even touch them. I just didn't have the time or the energy at the end of the day. And the only thing that I did get done in here, and this was only one day that I worked in my sewing room this week, and again, it's not much. I did make some more pinwheels for my pinwheel quilt, and this is all I did. And as you can see, I didn't even press them. I didn't even get to that point where I pressed them open. It just didn't happen this week. But I'm almost there. I mean, they're made. I just have to press them and continue on from there. So it is what it is, right? Not every week is a great productive week, but making some progress, even if it's small, is still progress. These are still a nice stack of pinwheels. They just have to be pressed open. And I have more in a box next to my sewing machine ready to go. Now that my house sitting is done, my plan is first to finish up quilting the green checkerboard, because I'm so close to having that finished. I have another quilt that needs to be basted, which has just been sitting patiently for me. And then I really want to work on the vintage squares a lot, and maybe some of these pinwheels in between. So we'll see how the next week goes. I hope it's a little bit better. So we'll see. Okay, so that will do it for me this week, and I hope I have a little bit more progress to share with you next time. And I hope that everybody out there is keeping busy in your sewing rooms too. So until next time, happy quilting, and I'll see you later. Bye. Point out the quilt.